Okay. You know, this is the portion where we talk about the annual fund. The annual fund, most people are pretty familiar with, but I think it's important that we continue to re-educate ourselves at every opportunity that we have. I'd like to go ahead and just kick off with a brief video. And after we have the video, then I'm going to go ahead and talk about some more details. But I'm going to put this video, if you can't see it or hear the music and overlay in the background, somebody please say something. Okay, was everybody able to see and hear that? I'm hoping the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And, you know, I want to try and try something. Okay, can you still see my presentation?
Yes, but it's a blank screen.
How about now?
Now we see your desktop.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, great. So again, my name is Joseph Altschul. I'm from the Rotary Club of Weston, and you know, I'm here not just to talk about the annual fund, but really to talk about your Rotary legacy, our Rotary legacy, your club's legacy, and how we make a difference in the world. You know, the mission of the Rotary Foundation is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. Foundations, it's a not for, everyone knows it's a not-for-profit. It's every dollar given to the foundation is tax deductible. It was started in 1917, a little over 100 years ago, by Altschul with the mission of doing good in the world. And as you saw in the video, as you know from your experiences in your Rotary clubs, we do good in the world. We make a difference. Your Rotary Foundation has been recognized as one of the top foundations in the world. And a lot of this comes down to the stewardship that we heard about earlier. But in 2016, the Association of Fundraising Professionals recognized the Rotary Foundation as the world's outstanding foundation. Charity Navigator has rated the Rotary Foundation 4 stars for 11 straight years. Only 1% of charities have attained and maintained a 4-star rating. So you can be proud and confident when you give your money to the Rotary Foundation. So how do we do good in the world? Again, improvement of health, support of education, alleviation of poverty, and Polio Plus, which began 35 years ago and has been just an amazing effort. It's been actually the largest effort of its type, public-private partnership, the first ever to try and alleviate a disease or a world pandemic, and it's been amazingly successful. Now, when we talk about foundation, one of the things that I love to share with people, and I don't know that everybody knows this, but when you give your money to the annual fund, 100% of the money goes to the cause. So you can see other charities out there where you have maybe 40%, 50% of cents on every dollar goes to the end cause. When you give to the Rotary's annual fund, it's 100% that goes to the cause. And the way that the foundation does that is they receive your money, they invest it for 3 years. The income that's generated from the investment helps to pay the expenses and defray the costs. And then after 3 years, that money is released from trust. 50% of it goes to the World Fund for Global Grants, and 50% comes back to our district for DDF. So to put that in perspective, the DDF is the money that we use for district matching grants. So as you've heard the discussions earlier about, getting your grants closed out and getting them completed, that money that we're talking about comes from what we give to the annual fund that ultimately is released and comes back to our clubs. So in years where we've had very high giving, we've been able 3 years later to have a lot of grants. We've had some clubs that did 4 and 5 grants just because of the amount of money that was available. Typically, we don't get to that level, and typically clubs will get somewhere in the 2 to 3 grants per year approved and matched. But again, it's just based on availability of funds. So understand that when you hear people talking about giving to the annual fund, when you hear people talk about becoming a Paul Harris Fellow, being what we call a sustaining member, all things that we're going to come back to in a few minutes, when you hear that talk, it directly correlates to money that's available from our district for matching grants. And it directly correlates to money that goes to the World Fund for Global Grants, as you heard Governor Peter talk about earlier. So it's a really important thing that we do. It is the engine that drives everything that Rotary International does and that we as clubs do in participation with the Rotary Foundation. So to give you an idea, the last year that we have statistics for, 2018, there was 1,300 grants, $86 million from the matching grants from the Rotary Foundation. And you can see the breakdown of, $35.7 million to preventing disease, $18.8 million for water projects, $11 million for education, $10.5 million for growing local economies, $7.2 million for maternal care, and $3.5 million for promoting peace. All the most worthy of projects. And again, I talk about stewardship, and stewardship is critical. I think it's important that if you're going to give money to a cause, that that money is being spent wisely, that money is being handled properly. And Rotary has steps in place in order to be sure that when a grant is approved, it's going to succeed. That includes a community assessment before the grant. Someone or a committee of people will actually analyze the community and assess that the project, the grant, matches the community need. Encouraging local ownership. It's not just Rotarians from outside coming in and parachuting in and doing something and leaving. It has to be local buy-in, providing training, buying local, finding local funding, and then having some measure for success. So all of these things really should give you a comfort level that when you give your money to the Rotary Foundation and that money is used for a project, that money is not going into a black hole. That money is going to make a difference. That money is going to go into a sustainable project that's going to last and that's going to be a legacy for those people who are on the receiving end of that project. So in our district grants, I had the most recent statistics that were available. You can see that we had what we call DDF. Again, that's the money available that comes back from the Rotary Foundation that we can use for matching grants. That's $50,921 for 2013-2014, $73,148 for 14-15, and $65,000 in 15-16. So you can see it's not a steady, you know, increase type curve, which we would like to see. You know, you can see the numbers go up, the numbers go down. Then we come to 16-17, and we had a nice amount, $85,000. We were able to fund 52 grants in 16-17. And then 17-18, you know, 3 years earlier, we had a very large gift come into our district that went to annual giving. And as a result, we were able to fund 81 grants, $136,000. And then for 18-19, 47 grants. Again, we were back down to about $80,000. And then, you know, now we have an increased amount for 19-20. The year just ended, a little under $97,000. We were able to fund 56 grants. Our anticipation this year, 69 grants at $92,292. So we're down from last year, we're up from the year before, but you can see these are real dollars. You know, these dollars make a difference. And that 92,000 number, it's our hope that we are going to grow that even more. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But you know, we think that there's really a plan in place to help us grow that $92,000 number. So why should your club support the Rotary Foundation? Why should you give? That's the question. Why should you give? And you know, a few quotes I like to share. St. Francis of Assisi, for it is in giving that we receive. And I think anybody who has participated in giving or in a Rotary project understands these words very well. Maya Angelou, I found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver. And Booker T. Washington, those who are happiest are those who do the most for others. Almost half the world, over 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. And at least 80% of humanity lives on less than $10 a day. I think every one of us knows, realizes, and understands that to whom much is given, much is expected. And right now, even in this time of COVID, even in this time of pandemic, we have the privilege of living in the wealthiest, most prosperous nation in the history of the world. And that's a blessing and a privilege for us to, and obviously I'm referring to those living in the United States. But it's just an amazing blessing for us. But there's a responsibility that comes with that. And that responsibility that comes with that is the responsibility to be generous, to give, to support. And so what I always ask everybody is make Rotary part of your giving. I mean, hopefully each of you have a giving plan year in and year out. and it's not just conditioned on, wow, you know, something good happened, here's a couple extra bucks. But hopefully each and every person here makes charitable giving a part of their life, no matter what their income level is, that they make some kind of charitable giving a part of their life. So what difference can your donation make? And the reason I like to share this slide is because it's very easy to see big numbers. You know, even looking at our district, you know, DDF of $92,000, you know, you can see that as a big number. Or you get into the Rotary Foundation, and you start seeing the hundreds of millions of dollars, and it can lead you to the question of how does my contribution matter? And I'll tell you that for 60 cents, you can give a polio inoculation. So that's a meaning that any one of us can be responsible for immunizations for, you know, a large number of people with a very small contribution out of our own pocket. $50 can provide clean water to help fight waterborne illness. $100, you know, if someday when we're, you know, hopefully in the near future, we'll be back in you know, to pre-COVID type living, go to restaurants, and you probably spend more than $100 on a dinner when you go to a restaurant. 1 full year of education expenses for an underprivileged child in Thailand. Textbooks for 1 elementary school in Zambia. dental and medical services to approximately 25 low-income individuals living in communities near Mexico City, Mexico. Cataract operations for 3 blind individuals in India. Deworming tablets for 112 children in the Philippines. Mosquito netting for 35 homes to help prevent the spread of malaria in Bangladesh. Hearing aid for a deaf child in Pakistan. $500 can launch an anti-bullying campaign and create a safe environment for children. So when you think about the numbers and you think about what difference you make, every one of us watching this video can make a difference. Every dollar matters. So a couple other things that we see. That same $100, 1 full year of education expenses for an underprivileged child in Thailand. Dental and medical services for 25 people in Mexico. And a couple of these are duplicative. Understand, $100, as I mentioned a moment ago, can restore the sight to 3 blind people through cataract operations. And there is nothing else that I can do with $100 that would make more of a difference to others than that. And, you know, understand that your $100 is not just $100. It can save a life. And so I encourage everybody, I use the $100 number. I'm not suggesting that that's where your giving should stop. I am suggesting that's where your giving should start as a floor, but that's not where your giving should stop. As I said, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I encourage you, give generously as you can and as you purpose to do. Contribute something every year. That's what we call E-raise. Some of you have heard that expression. Every Rotarian every year contributes something every year. Then we have what's called a sustaining member. And that's why I said I encourage $100 as a starting point. Rotary recognizes that when you give $100, that sustains Rotary. And many clubs each year strive to be a 100% sustaining club. My club, the Rotary Club of Weston, has been a 100% sustaining club every year for many years. And, when you're, 130 plus members, that could seem like a difficult task to make sure you have at least $100 from everybody, but it really isn't. And I'll share with you in just a few minutes why it isn't. And then Paul Harris Fellow. For every $1,000 you give, you receive a Paul Harris Fellow, and then it moves up into multiple levels of Paul Harris Fellow. That doesn't have to be $1,000 at one time. If you give $100 a year for 10 years, you will become a Paul Harris Fellow after 10 years. I would encourage those who have the ability to do $1,000 per year to seriously think about doing that. And I think there will probably be some discussion on the Paul Harris Society after my presentation, and that will be discussed a little bit further. And you can see, if you look at the pin on your right, as you get multiple Paul Harris Fellows, you're looking at this pin with somebody who has not a first time or second time or third time, but a multiple Paul Harris Fellow. And there's different color, there's rubies, and then there's the blue stones, and it's really to just continue to recognize your giving to the Rotary Foundation. So to give you an idea, the Paul Harris Fellow designation was started in 1957. People who gave $1,000 in 1957 is the equivalent, and I apologize, that's not 2017, that's for this year. For 2020, the equivalent is $9,080. That's what $1,000 in 1957 was. So you understand, it was a much bigger sacrifice in 1957 to become a Paul Harris Fellow than it is today. Today it's a much lower bar because the amount hasn't been raised as consumer pricing has risen. So we also have what's called a major donor, and that's when you get to your $10,000 mark. Anyone who gives over $10,000 cumulatively over their lifetime becomes a major donor, and then there are levels within major donors as you continue. Right now we have a little over 22,000 major donors worldwide. And generally recognition for major donors is given to couples. So if you're a married couple, they recognize both the husband and the wife as major donors. So in District 6990, we have approximately 110 major donors. And then, as I mentioned, you can see the pins. These are major donor pins, and with the additional diamonds as you increase levels of major donor giving. And also major donors receive a crystal, and that's, you can see a picture of the crystal on the right side. So I do want to touch briefly a little bit on our district's Rotary giving. You can see this year our goal is $273,575. Now that's down slightly from last year's goal. We do have a few more members than we did last year, believe it or not. And it's still up from 2018, 2019. So, you know, it's somewhat consistent, but it's not a large amount per member, $151.65 per member. Now, we will have clubs that will do much better than this. We will have clubs that will give, you know, most likely in the $400 to $500 range per member this year. And then we'll have clubs who are at the opposite end of the scale. And then, you know, that's how we'll end up with the average. So you can see last year, this year is the goal. Last year, we had $154.72 per member. And the year before that, $193.36. So how do we raise money for the Rotary Foundation? The district level and the club level. Now, at the district level, we have just one event, and is someone, I think Yoli spoke about the golf ball drop, or, okay, after me, Yoli's going to speak about the golf ball drop. So that is our only district fundraiser for the Rotary Foundation. So, you know, I ask you, please, when Yoli speaks, you know, listen to the things she says and get behind it, because for many clubs do not have a club level giving plan. And the only money that they are going to give to the foundation is what they do with helicopter golf ball tickets. Now, for those who are club presidents, if you haven't received the tickets yet, you're going to receive them. I ask you, please be responsible, presidents and club members. If you're a club member and your president's not on the call with you, and you become aware that the tickets have been circulated and you don't see them in your club, please say something. Let your club leadership know, because it's really important that we get behind this helicopter golf ball drop. At the club level, and let me just back up a little bit on the some statistics on the golf ball drop, and Yoli will update it from here most likely, but for 2017-18, $77,000 that we raised from the golf ball drop. And 2018-19 was $81,000. All of that to the annual fund. Now, at the club level, so how do we support it? As I mentioned, promote the golf ball drop, support the golf ball drop, buy tickets. If it's the same as in past years, it's going to be $25 a ticket. They have some great prizes. Support it. Consider doing a fundraiser in your club that's dedicated to the Rotary Foundation, or that at least is in part dedicated to the Rotary Foundation. And I'm going to share with you what we do in my club, the Rotary Club of Weston. We have two major fundraisers each year in Weston. One fundraiser goes exclusively for scholarships for the three high schools that we support. The other fundraiser, it's a half marathon and a 5K. And that event funds everything else we do in our Rotary Club. It funds all the charities that we support, and it provides money to the Rotary Foundation. So each year we will raise probably $25,000 to $30,000 just for the Rotary Foundation from that event. But we don't just write a check to the Rotary Foundation from the Rotary Club of Weston. We then take that money and we try and give an incentive to our club members to give more money. So we do what's called matching dollars. We will take these dollars, and let's just say it's $30,000, and let's say it's $25,000. We'll go to our club and we'll say, okay, we have $25,000 of matching funds. We will match you $2 for every dollar that you give to the foundation. So if you will do an additional contribution of $300, and it's only every matching up to $300. If you will do an additional contribution of $300, the club will match $600, so that you now have a $900 contribution. Add that to your $100 that you're giving as a sustaining member, you are now a $1,000 contributor. You have now reached your next Paul Harris Fellow recognition level. So we do this every year, year in and year out. For those who attended the awards ceremony the other night, you heard, as they talked about the foundation, the Weston Club was the #1 club in giving, and the number, I believe, was in the mid $40,000 range, which is, I guess in part because of COVID, was actually a decrease for what we've given in recent years, but it was probably more than double the next closest club. And I want you to understand, it's not, and I don't share this with you to brag about it. I share it with you to try and give you some thoughts on how to succeed in your club. The reason that there are plenty of clubs that raise more money than us. There are plenty of clubs that are wealthier than our clubs. The reason why the Weston Club has been successful is we have made the Rotary Foundation part of our culture. We talk about the Rotary Foundation every week. We heard a few minutes ago about Polio Plus. I can tell you every month we auction an umbrella, and the winner of that umbrella gets to speak for 3 minutes at every club meeting about any subject they want to speak about, other than a few subjects that are off limits. And we encourage business owners to buy that umbrella and use that money to promote their business, because Lord knows we need to support our fellow Rotarians. Rotary started as a business networking group, and we need, and there's nothing that is off limits in terms of letting other Rotarians know what you do and how to support you. So, we have this umbrella. This month, I think we raised $800 that goes straight to Polio Plus, for that umbrella. We'll probably raise $10,000 this year just for Polio Plus by auctioning off that umbrella. But again, it comes down to the culture in the club. We talk about the Rotary Foundation every week, week in and week out, and it means something. We hammer home that this is our foundation. It's not Joe's foundation. It's not Alan's foundation. It's not Governor Peters' foundation. This is your foundation. Every one of you who calls yourself a Rotarian, this is your foundation. And that culture needs to be promoted in your club. So as I said, we raise this money. We dedicate a portion of it to matching dollars and give an easy path for people to come up with more money to be able to reach the next Paul Harris level. We also encourage the Paul Harris Society, and in my opinion, that's an area that we as a district can really make big improvements on. I believe we're going to hear from Marushka on that, so I'm not going to jump into it too much, but that's one way to support it. And then any other ideas, think outside the box, come up with ideas, do matching dollars, not just matching points, but matching dollars. Have a fundraiser. Do something to raise money for your foundation, your Rotary Foundation. So I wanted to briefly talk about Rotary Foundation points. What are points? Every dollar you give to the Rotary Foundation, you get a point. Once you get to $1,000, you now have 1,000 points, and you can take those 1,000 points and make somebody else a Paul Harris Fellow. The reason you're doing that is to create awareness and to give recognition to people who have contributed to Rotary. So anybody who has points, if you have extra points, you can transfer them to another Rotarian to make them a Paul Harris Fellow. As far as how to transfer points, you can see me, and I can tell you offline if you're not familiar with it, but you can also do it directly through the Rotary Foundation. And then, can someone who's deceased receive points? Someone who's deceased can't receive points, but they can receive recognition. So you can honor someone. If you have a loved one who's passed away, you can make them a Paul Harris Fellow with extra points that you have. Now, points do not count towards becoming a major donor. which is, again, when you get to the $10,000 level. That's only based on actual dollar giving. So one of the things that we really past District Governor Allen encouraged a few years ago, and our club became a 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club. And what that means is, for one moment in time, everyone in your club is a Paul Harris Fellow. So it takes a little bit of planning, but the way to do that is through the use of points. If that's something that matters, if you want to have a culture surrounding the Rotary Foundation, I encourage you, look at becoming a 100% Paul Harris Club. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit more in my next segment on legacy, but let's talk about legacy for just a moment. You know, I like to share one of Dr. Martin Luther King's final speeches, where he talked about legacy, and he, you know, and to paraphrase him, he said, you know, when I die, you know, someone is going to eulogize me. And when they do, I hope that they don't talk about the Nobel Prizes that I won, you know, the doctorates I received, the education I had. I hope that they talk about the fact that I fed the hungry, that I clothed the naked, and that I sheltered the homeless. And like Dr. King's legacy, Rotary's legacy is feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, sheltering the homeless, restoring sight to the blind. We fulfill this legacy through giving to our Rotary Foundation and through giving to the annual fund. So unless we have any questions, I'm going to say thank you for now, and then I'll join you again in a few minutes.
Joe, Bob Brooks here. Great presentation. But I also like to, I'm so surprised sometimes that people join the Rotary Club and come to the meetings and participate in events and don't understand the importance of giving to what we're all about. And I think that gap is sometimes missing in a lot of clubs, that people like to wear the pin, but they don't understand what it is that we really do on a global basis and on a local basis. And that's been my challenge all along in trying to raise funds for the foundation, is people really don't have that deep understanding of why we wear the Rotary pin. So thank you for pointing that out.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more on that, Bob. And I really think it comes down to culture. You know, I don't care what, you know, a lot of people, and as my club was going from being, you know, I've been in my club for 21 years. So I've seen it go from a small club to a large club. And a lot of people have this perspective of, you know, as I look at the club, you know, I'm here for business. I'm here, you know, to promote whatever it is I'm promoting. And some people over the years have been very purist about it and said, you know what, they're not Rotarians, send them to BNI, send them somewhere else. My perspective has always been, take them in Rotary and let them see what our Rotary culture is about. And if it turns out that they're just there to self-promote and they're not interested in anything else, they're going to be gone in a year. But some of those people that join are going to understand the value of what we do, the humanitarian nature of these service projects, are going to understand that they're saving lives and that they're making a difference. So people, whether they join for the right reason or the wrong reason, they need to come to a meeting and have a culture that's not only community service and international service, but a culture of generosity and giving and education about the Rotary Foundation. Thank you for that, Robert. Any other questions? I'm not sure how I am on time. I'm probably over like usual.
Joseph, I just want
We're going to save all the questions until the end. So
Okay.
we've got a lot more presentations to get through, and then we'll ask all the questions.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Thank you, Joe. You were great. By the way, I missed part of your presentation. My computer literally froze in the middle of your presentation, and I couldn't even move the cursor. I had to turn the whole computer off and turn it back on. So now I'm on phone audio and computer screen. So well, hopefully that won't happen again. But
Well,
it was a great presentation.
Alan, you know that took everybody down, right?
Yeah.
You know you crashed the whole meeting when you did that, right?
I thank you. Hey, listen, people are saying, hey, it was a great seminar. It was only an hour and a half. Okay, great. But I do want to say, everything Joe said is true. Give for the right reasons, but also remember, when we talked about grants at the beginning, that money is the annual fund comes back to our district, and that's the money we use to fund our district grants, to fund our global grants. So if we want to keep doing the projects that we do, and we need to always contribute to the annual fund,